From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, a quarterback can fix everything. And this offense needs fixing, but they're not going to change quarterbacks. Think about that. And the defense, are they finally hitting their stride? Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. That promo code is WarchantBOGO. Buy one, get one free. All varieties are buy one, get one free over at VitaminEnergy.com, including the new variety, the Immune Plus Extra Strength Blue Raspberry flavor. Can't talk about it enough. So good once it hits your lips, everybody. 260 milligrams, all natural caffeine, plus 44.8 milligrams of green tea extract. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Cooking with gas now, everybody. Vitamins, nutrients, everything. One little bottle. Literally, it's not even 2 full fluid ounces. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Thumbs up, 5-star rating and review. People out there still angry, Corey. They wanted hard questioning. We try to give it to you folks on Monday, but softball here to start us off. How are you, Corey?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Thanks for asking me something so easy to get us started.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. There's not a lot to talk about. I almost want to get on a soapbox and use my bully pulpit here, but I guess I won't go down that rabbit hole. At least not yet.
Oh, that's good. Is it at me?
No, dude.
Okay, good.
You're my North Star, brother.
Okay.
What do I do without you, man? All right, just real quick, like behind the media curtain, everybody. I don't know what y'all want from us. Like, this isn't Law and Order. This isn't a trial. There's no a combination of questions we can ask Mike Norvell to put him in a corner where it's like, you know what? You got me. You're right. DJ's not doing great. We'll replace him. I didn't even think about that. Good point. I like the way Fuller and I think Atkins was a little bit. Those guys. I don't know. Maybe they don't feel as much heat because they're not the head man. They seem to be a little bit more forthright. But guys, it's year 5. You've listened to one Mike Norvell press conference. You listened to them all. He's not going to give you what you want in terms of like a response. And like I almost feel bad even asking him some questions. I'm like, people are upset. Our subscribers. They pay my salary. I'll try and be part of the solution. I thought you and I were also asked some questions to try to get some more clarity or solutions, perhaps, Corey. But I don't know, man. It's 4 football games worth, everybody. We got to brace, brace the storm, and then hopefully reload. I don't know, man. I don't know.
And speaking of storms, I hope everybody gets out of the way of this thing or battens down the hatches and stays safe. I will be leaving the 850. Probably Wednesday morning, maybe Tuesday night to head up to Atlanta. So I'm going to get out of the path of this thing, or at least the immediate path. But hopefully everybody stays safe because that thing is apparently barreling down towards us. But yeah, man, on to more important things like football. I do think that, I get there's some angst, though, because just with the fan base in general, because it's so bad, Aslan. It's so bad, and anybody wants a reason. I want it too. You just want a reason for why it's so bad, and offensively, and there isn't one. There's a million of them. But as Norvell said to the question I asked him, there isn't one thing. Like, he made the motion of, like, pushing a button. He didn't say it. That would have been a better quote if he had said, like, there's just not one button we can push, but he just made the motion with his hand. But there isn't. Yes, you can make a change at quarterback. Sure, to me, that would be a fair place to start. Does anybody expect them to average 40 points a game with Brock Glenn? Does anybody expect them to even be competent with Brock Glenn? There's a reason he's not. Mike Norvell has eyes. He knows how bad this offense is. He can read numbers. If he can't, I went ahead and told him how many points his team has scored this year in my question, which is 60. Reminder, SMU scored 66 on Saturday. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He can see how bad this offense is. So if there was one thing that could fix it, or just two little tweaks that could fix it, you would have thought it had been fixed by now, or at least it looked different. But it doesn't. And The way it sounded, it'll probably be DJ again in Dallas. And then clearly I don't think you can start Brock Glenn the first game of the season against Clemson. So it'll be DJ against his former school against Clemson. And maybe when you're 6 games into the season and you're still averaging 16, 15 points a game, there will be a change. But it probably isn't going to elicit great results, right? That's just – it almost seems – he's not defeated. He would never project that even if he was. But I just – his basic answer is like there's not just one thing we can go change or we would have already done it. It all works together, and none of it is working well.
I do sort of appreciate the fact that he isn't taking any kind of victory lap after that game. I know everybody's like, well, how could he? It's like, well, because he won a game. He won a game. And
he's 7th in the ACC right now.
Yeah.
Right?
But, we didn't get the usual verve out of him when he showed up to his post-game press conference on Saturday night. And I thought on Monday he was still pretty measured and, I don't want to say somber, but he was just measured. Like, he's like, he realizes, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's like, wow, really only 60? I hope that's the first question he asked his valet when he left the press conference room. He's like, man, I know it's been bad, but was Corey right? Have we only scored 60 total? And the guy's like, yeah, man.
And I had a lot more numbers I should have thrown at him, but I didn't. I'm kind.
So he realizes it. So I guess he's got eyes. We've got eyes. And at no point have we ever said that, man, Brock be tearing it up out there. Is it possible that could it be? We always say it couldn't be worse. Yeah. But if it couldn't be worse with Brock, then why wouldn't they have tried by now? He's been in this program. He's not a veteran, but man, he's not a freshman either. He's not a true freshman. He's taken more snaps in this offense than Dylan Gabriel took before he took over. That's not a good example. He's played a lot of football. Corey, why not then? Like, is it worth even thinking about that? Maybe they missed on him, and then they know that already.
Absolutely. Like, look, this is not a normal progression of a quarterback. You'd like a quarterback to sit a year or two. And normally when a quarterback, a redshirt freshman quarterback, you're into game 5 of his second year on campus and he has not played, that would not be alarm bells going off. Because it's like, yeah, that's kind of the natural order of things. That's the natural order of things that you're not supposed to play that early, typically, at a good program. But when you have, Aslan, as we talked about yesterday, the number 126 scoring offense in the country, the number 126 total offense in the country, number 132 in yards per carry, number 130 in rushing yards. You are an abysmal offense on every level, and this kid still can't get into the game at all. After 6 touchdowns in 4 games, this kid doesn't even appear to be any closer to getting in a game, to being utilized. Then absolutely you have to ask yourself, okay, well, these guys get paid to win games. They don't get paid. It's so bad, Aslan, that there are conspiracy theories out there that, it must be in DJ's contract that he has to start.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's how bad it is, and that's obviously foolish. Why would Florida State ever guarantee anyone? I don't care how bad you play. I don't care if you only got one leg left. You're playing. That wouldn't be in a contract. DJ wouldn't care. He just wants his money. As long as the money's guaranteed whether he plays or not, that's not a stipulation that anybody would have, ever. You think, even like Mahomes, is like, I'll sign that $400 million contract, but make sure I'm playing every game. It's like, yeah, man, right. We're giving you that money because you're supposed to be the starter. But anyway, so that's how bad it is, Aslan, that people think, I had people joking with me on Friday and Saturday that he's got some sort of blackmail on Mike Norvell. Like, that's how bad it's been. And then it was just as bad, if not worse, just as bad on Saturday, and it still looks as like we're going that route. So Occam's razor, man, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. They just don't – I personally don't think they think Brock Glenn can win them games this year, which is concerning because Brock Glenn is supposed to be one of your future pieces. And if you don't think – and this was a realization I just had – I mean, I should have had it 2 weeks ago, but I just really kind of had it on Monday after listening to Mike and listening to Alex Atkins talk about the situation. It's like, okay, man, they don't believe – they must not believe in I'm not going to say they don't believe in Brock Glenn at all because maybe they think he'll be good next year. They certainly don't believe in the 2024 version of Brock Glenn because then how in the world is he not in the game? If he's even 1% better, why wouldn't he be in the game? But he's not. So what do you think that tells you about their belief in Brock Glenn? And if Brock Glenn can't even get in the game now with it, literally – with the worst offense in the Power 5, and that is not a joke, and that's not hyperbole. It is them or UCLA, and UCLA's played better teams. Are the two worst teams in the Power 5 offensively. I think there's been 3 teams that have scored less than 6 touchdowns, but none of them have been. Oh, sorry. Kent State is the only other team in the country that's played 4 games that has scored less than 6 touchdowns. They've scored 5. They've been shut out back-to-back weeks by Tennessee and Penn State. That is the neighborhood you're in, man. That is the company you're keeping, is flipping Kent State.
And Tennessee, and to your point, Tennessee and Penn State, a little bit better than Memphis and Cal.
Sure, but also Tennessee and Penn State probably played their third string for the last quarter and a half of those games. Kent State still couldn't score, and they still have about as many touchdowns as Florida State does on the season. So that's very, very depressing, but it also tells you that they don't think that Brock Glenn is the answer this year. And if he's not the answer this year, will he be an answer? And if you don't think he's the answer right now, buddy, you better be watching all game film from all across the country and go get yourselves an effing quarterback next year. Tramel Jones is a true freshman, ain't coming in and doing it. Luke Kromenhoek, you going to start him? You believe in him enough to take over after what we think is going to be a 3-9, 4-8 season at best? You going to throw the keys to a redshirt freshman? Or are you going to go get yourself a quarterback? Because it would not appear, right? I don't think I'm outlandish in saying this. If you're not willing to play Brock Glenn now, in this instance with this offense, you must not be willing to play Brock Glenn. And if that's the case, what hope would any of us have that 10 months from now he's the guy when he's not the guy right now? Yeah, they can grow, they can get better. I get that. He's been here for a year and a half now. He got here in January of 2023. So he's been here for a while, and if you still don't think he's got it, well then, yeah, it just, to me, doesn't that scream that they will have to be in the portal again next year, which people might have thought that anyway. But if Brock Glenn doesn't get on the field in Dallas, let me rephrase. If the offense continues to piddle F around and score 1 or 2 touchdowns against another sort of group of 5 team, I know they're ACC. We all love our ACC teams, but this is SMU, man. And if they still piddle F around and score 1 or 2 touchdowns with this quarterback and that Brock Glenn can't get on the field, or if he does get on the field, he struggles mightily, well, yeah, man, you're in the portal again. And go get yourself a better one this time. That's where I'm at.
So not
I
buying.
shouldn't say a better one, right? Like somebody that's a better fit? Go find somebody that's maybe a better fit for your offense, Mike. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, but the thing, though, is it feels like Jordan Travis was not anything remotely close to like the last 4 quarterbacks he had. You know, I mean, I think he brought up the Brady White, I think might have been the name of the quarterback he had out in Arizona State, or Brady Kelly maybe.
And who's the kid at Memphis? I thought that
Brady White. It was another Brady. It was Brady White, I think, is who he had in Memphis. And he had Riley Ferguson and another quarterback who escapes me at this moment. But you know, they were all like traditional drop back passers. They look probably very similar to the guy that Memphis has right now, the Hannigan kid. But you know, clearly the Jordan experiment worked out for him. I mean, there's nobody on this roster that's even remotely close to the skill set that Jordan has. And then listen, Jordan wasn't like that in 2020 or 21, and it took him, 4 or 5 games maybe to totally unlock it in 2022. But yeah, I don't know if it's finding a quarterback that fits his system, or is it simply he needs to have just absolute elite talent at every position on offense, seemingly to have a, which that's not like a knock on him. I mean, listen,
yeah.
I'm sure there's been
most coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the point of contention right now.
But yeah, I think that what we're coming to realize is, yes, I think Brock in the short term could help just because of the mobility. He can avoid pressure. He can get out of sacks. He can get out of negative plays. He can make some negative plays, sure. But as I pointed out, how could it be worse? Like you've scored 6 touchdowns, man. There's 15 kids in the country that have scored more touchdowns than you, just individually. And some of them have only played 3 games. It's just gross in every level. So if Brock Glenn can't play for this team right now, why on earth would we think, okay, but he'll be the guy starting January 1st? Like, see now. Maybe he's a gamer, but I think that screams to me, if you're not willing to commit to him, and not if Norvell had decided to make a change, he wouldn't tell us on Monday, folks. That goes back to Aslan's original point. Where he would never tell us. He would not divulge that. But if he's not willing to play Brock Glenn now, with this, after a year and a half now, again, let's put that out there. After a year and a half, he has not just been on campus for 2 months. He has been here for a year and a half. He's practiced, I don't know, Aslan, 100 times? 150 times he's played in games.
I mean, they have 15 spring practices. He's been here for 2 springs. He was injured for some of them. They have 25 preseason. Well, then they got, 2 a week?
They had the whole season last year. So
right.
maybe 100.
Yeah, no, you're right. Maybe you're right. I'm sorry.
Maybe 100, 120. If you can't know, if you're still not comfortable with him after 100, 120 practices, and all that film room work, and actually playing 2 games, important games. Well, the Orange Bowl wasn't, but the one in Charlotte was. If you don't think he's the guy, I think that's where instead of just why won't he play Brock, well, let's turn that question on its head. Yeah, why won't he play Brock? What do you guys think is the reason? It's not because TJ has blackmail photos, and it's not because it's in his contract. And it's not as if Mike Norvell doesn't care about winning. That's what he lives for. So that tells me that, again, I might be singing a different tune in 3 weeks when Brock Glenn's ripped off 4 straight wins. But if he doesn't play in Dallas, he's not showing them anything close. Like if it was even close, right, Aslan? Right. If they thought it was even close, how do you not make a change? And if it's not anywhere close, then how could you expect him to be your quarterback in 2025? So again, I can't remember exactly what that South Florida kid's name is. Byron Brown?
Close. I'll see what I
right?
can pick up. Yeah.
I think it's that. He threw for like 250 against Miami. I think he got hurt, though.
Byram.
He ran for 100 against Alabama. I think he's a redshirt sophomore. He's in the state.
He's a junior.
He's a unique kid. I know it said a junior, but I don't think he played in 2022. Or he played like 4 games.
Yeah, I saw action in 4 games. Started the last 2.
So
yeah,
I think he technically should still be a redshirt sophomore. He was the only player in the country other than Jaden Daniels in 2023 that threw for 3,000 yards and ran for over 800 yards. Like, he's an athlete and he can throw, and he's played really good teams. He's maybe he loves Tampa, or there's going to be other bidders coming for him. But somebody like that, like I'm not joking. Like usually I joke about this stuff. I would start now doing my film work as if whoever's in your scouting department, Derek Ray and everybody else that works for him, start breaking down film now as if you're scouts getting ready for the draft. Because come December 1st, or wherever that portal opens up, technically they're all available. So go have your list of who you want and figure it out and have something in place so you'll know December 1st or December 2nd exactly who your quarterback is going to be in 2025. And then that also helps bring in other kids and bring in other recruits and other transfer portal kids that might want to come play for somebody like that. Like, that's where I am now, because clearly, in my opinion, because of what we've seen through 4 games, they don't think Brock Glenn is the answer. And if Brock Glenn's not the answer, then the answer is probably not on the roster for 2025. So go get a guy to be a bridge to Croman Hawk or Tramel Jones.
Awesome.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
You agree with me?
Yeah, it's funny because I almost think I'm having to feign anger. Like, listen, I'm not happy with the way Florida State's look, but listen, last year was magical. Like, you feel like you hit, whatever, 777s or triple cherries on a slot machine or something like that, or oranges. I don't know what's the best one to have. I'm not a big slots guy, Corey. Not a big slots guy.
Triple cherries, man, of course.
But everything came together so well last year that it feels like this year, it's like, how can I be too mad at the world for what's happening? But I understand the standard that Florida State has. So
if it was even 24 points a game they averaged last year.
I know. That's it. But
it's 15.
I know. The way you talk about it,
they average less points per game than Jameer Watkins. Anyway, go ahead.
We'll be speaking to Ham, by the way, later today, everybody. So if you're ready to see what's going on with another season, basketball not too far away. We spoke to Link Jarrett and the crew earlier yesterday, too. So maybe we'll talk about that later in the show. I guess the other point of contention right now around Norvell is, not punting the ball sometimes, not kicking field goals. Was there a sufficient answer from either him or I think maybe Papuchis was asked about it, but I almost feel like John wants to be like, man, it's not my account. I mean, it's kind of my account, but it's not my account. There's a lot that goes into it, I guess, was the short answer to why aren't you punting? Why aren't you kicking field goals instead of, going for it on third and
Yeah, and I talked to people after the game on Saturday and then on Sunday too about that decision to go for it. I didn't think that was a crazy decision because look, I know we're watching the NFL every day, and I know kickers have never been this good, and I know Fitz has a 59-yarder under his belt. 56 yards is a long kick. That is not an automatic. Like somebody was like, "What? How? Just take the points, Mike." And it's like, no, that's not. It wasn't 25 yards. Yeah. It was a 56-yard kick, and if you miss it, they get the ball at the 40. Now they got it there anyway. And you should know your offense a little better, maybe. But I get why he would have. Maybe the second or third down play could have gotten you closer. So it's a 51-yard kick, which seems much more within his range. They kept saying it was right on the edge of his range, and I don't disagree with that. Fitzgerald has a strong leg. It ain't the kid from the Cowboys. Like, it's not every time he kicks it, it goes 75 yards. I think the one he made what was the one he made? Was it against Cal? Or no, Memphis? He made a 52-yarder, right? 50-yarder?
53, I think. Right?
Yeah, it didn't clear it by 10 yards.
Right.
So and when Norvell talks about the
54,
weather or
54. 54.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't like it went over by 10 yards. It would have maybe been good from 56. But it's humid. The ball the ball doesn't travel as well at night. Like, there are reasons it's not like they guess on this. Fitzgerald warms up in practice or in warm-ups, and he'll tell them, like, that night, depending on the factors, the wind, the humidity, the dew point. The dew point is big with kickers.
Yes.
I didn't know if you knew that.
Thick.
That's huge. That's something that's
air.
underreported. Yeah. But if the dew point's a certain level, he'll go and say, "Look, right, my edge is 56. That's where give me." So if your kicker's saying, "I think I can make it from 56," or somewhere in there, it's not an automatic, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't. I trust me. I've talked about problems. I've talked about issues I've had with his fourth down decisions. I didn't have a problem with that one. I thought that was fair because it wasn't a chip shot. My biggest complaint of anything that happened decision wise on Saturday night was the decision on 3rd and 15 to just throw the ball when you're already well within field goal range. And I had forgotten Aslan. Not only was it a horrible pick, well, they were also
called it a bad play. What do you mean by bad play? Like bad play? It was everything. So was it a bad play call? Was it a bad read?
I think that's what he meant. I think it was him saying it was a dumb decision to even call something like that. Okay. The quarterback certainly didn't do it well. Didn't see it well. Didn't play it well. It was not blocked up well. Like, it was bad all around. Nobody seemed to be open. Okay. But also, I had forgotten there was a hold on that play. So if he throws an incompletion instead of an interception, I assume they probably back him up another 10 yards, and now you're basically on the edge of his field goal range again. Like, that's when you call it when you're up 7-0 and you have the worst offense in the United States and you're on their side of the field again. Probably I think it was like the 13. Yeah, probably at the 25-yard line or so, because I know they had 1st and 10 at the 13, and then they started going backwards.
They were on the 18 when they threw the pick.
They did. Well, that's crazy. Right?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's 3rd and 15 from the 18. So essentially it's 3rd and goal from the 18-yard line. Yeah. Have any of y'all seen a Florida State offense this year where you thought, man, 3rd and 18, 3rd and goal from the 18, that's pitch and catch, man. That's easy. Just run a skinny post, Jakai. That should be open. Like that, throw to Morlock. Like that's not how this offense has looked. And the coach, even against his better judgment or his whole nature, is to not be a guy that settles. In that moment, coach to your team, man. Coach to your team and take the points. Run a draw. Run something simple. Get 5 yards. Maybe you bust it, but you're in chip shot field goal range for that kid. And a 10-0 lead, a 2-score lead is really valuable when you don't score a lot of points. So that was by far my bigger frustration with his decision making than not going for it not going for a field goal that would have been a 56-yarder.
Your decision-making is going to be simplified today, everybody, when you go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, because it's Taco Tuesday. No need to worry about what the lunch special is going to be. Go for the tacos all day. Soft shell, hard shell, chicken or beef. It's going down over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. And then 7 p.m. is obviously going to be trivia. Corey's going to stick around for that and tempt fate and a powerful hurricane, apparently, just to hang around a little bit longer, get in some more QT. That's quality time at the CP. as a Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. I did also make visual confirmation, not that we don't believe Corey on this program, but the Corey is a thing, and it's on the menu there. I can't have it because it's got a bunch of bacon on it, but
you could tell him to take it off.
I guess I could. The way it read was like piled high with applewood smoked bacon. I'm like, I feel like the chicken isn't the star of this wrap. It's like a bacon wrap with like chicken making a cameo appearance. But I'll try it. Maybe without the bacon. Corey wrap, only $13.99. Fresh chicken breast grilled and piled high with hickory smoked bacon and sharp cheddar cheese. Are you cheddar cheese guys specifically, Corey? Is that why it is the Corey wrap with cheddar cheese?
No, I'm really just a cheese guy in general. I like sharp cheddar cheese, but I also like American. Don't sleep on Swiss.
Okay.
Provolone. Mozzarella.
Oh, there
is that how they say it? Mozzarella.
Mozzarella.
There you go. I watched the Sopranos documentary.
All
By the way,
right.
great.
Okay, and everyone keeps. Is it something that came out recently? I assume. All right. Okay. We're talking about.
I was trying to say it like they do. No, man. It's a great wrap, and it's one of many great items of food there at Corner Pocket.
CPTallybar.com, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Got to speak to Alex Atkins on Monday. That was cool. Missed him. It's been a minute since we were able to catch up and talk shop. Chop it up with Alex Atkins. What stood out to me was like the last comment he made, because I think Papucha said the same thing after the Georgia Tech game when did we have a press conference before Boston College, or maybe it was after the Boston College game. Papucha said something about, or maybe it was going to Boston College because no, I'm sorry, I'm going to make up my mind. It was before the Memphis game, because he was talking about teams make their biggest jump from week 1 to week 2, and we've got this bye week, so he's like, we need to do that, and we need to do it fast. And it wasn't like a throwaway comment. There was like a level of urgency and sincerity and belief in him that like, we need to get this thing fixed fast. They did not get it fixed fast enough to beat Memphis. But Alex Atkins said something similar when I asked him just, kind of a clumsy question about, are they at a point now watching so much of DJ where like now they kind of have an idea of what he can do, or is it still about making him accomplish what they need him to do? And he kind of, he gave a good answer. I thought it was a bad question, but then he ended it with, we need to figure that out though. And we need to figure that out fast. So again, I mean, nothing that's going to make anybody feel that much enough better to stop complaining and feel a little bit better throughout their day. But it needs to be said that I think everybody, this is a smart staff, everybody. They won 13 games in a row last year, part of a 19-game winning streak. I don't know. They do realize there's problems. I guess the real problem, though, of course, is that they haven't offered a lot of solutions yet. But maybe Darius coming back last week helped. Jeremiah Byer sounds like he's on the right track to return as well. They don't have Roydale Williams. Not saying addition by subtraction, but maybe that just limits your rotation at running back. Sounds like Mekhi Dancy's getting maybe closer to being ready in terms of how the coaching staff feels they can deploy him. Anything else of note from Alex Atkins's press conference on Monday that you took away from to bring to the people here listening to the program?
No, he wouldn't really go down the road. I didn't expect he would about how tough it was to watch games from not on the sidelines. I like what he said about Early. That's good because that's a guy that, I thought Norvell brought up an interesting point. Like he said, look, Jalen struggled against Memphis, which was to be expected. It was his first game. But he also said, he wasn't that nervous for Memphis because he didn't even know he was going to play. Darius legit hurts himself in warm-ups, and all of a sudden Jalen Early doesn't have time to get nervous. He's in the game. He's like, it's 20 minutes. I'm going to play a football game now. But he had a whole week to prepare against Cal, and he did say that he was he did say that he was nervous during the week, but that helped him prepare. He was probably almost especially more prepared. He also had been through a whole 60-minute football game, and he played well. He might have been the best offensive lineman on Saturday night.
He graded out that way. He graded out that way.
Sure. It's not saying a lot. We don't know how Florida State grades him, but it seemed like Atkins and Norvell mentioned him unsolicited, how proud he was of him and how excited he was about the way he played. That's good. That's again, it's a young person. Or I don't even know how young. Was he his third year here?
Yes.
So he's not young necessarily, but he's a new
untested name. Or something, I guess.
But he's a new face.
Yeah.
He's a new face. He's a new name. He's not the same guys we've been watching for 2 or 3 years. So it's good to see that a guy that they recruited, evaluated, and have developed seemed to at least play pretty well on Saturday night against. Look, man, certainly the best defense they have faced through the first 5 games. Like Cal's defense is better than SMU's will be, and I think it's better than the other 3 teams they faced. That wasn't a horrible defense.
No.
At all. No. So going up against that front 7, I thought Early played pretty well for the most part, considering, and that's good to see. And Atkins talked highly of him. Said he likes it. I asked him about a moment that I just saw. I happened to see. I don't even know if Atkins knew what I was talking about. Where Early made a really good block on a 3rd and short play or a 4th and short play, and then flexed in the defensive lineman's face. I like that gumption, man. They have a lot of. I'm not going to call these guys nice. The offensive linemen they have, you got to be a little nasty or a lot nasty to play offensive line, right? Like that is such an unyielding position, and it's so physical. You've got to have a little nastiness in you. But they're quiet. Not Jeremiah, but Darius and Maurice specifically, Rob Scott too, those are quiet guys. You don't see Darius after a block flexing over someone. They need some of this, man.
Little dog.
They do need I don't want to say that Darius isn't a dog, but they need some visible dog. They need a loud bark to go with a loud bite. They need some of this, man. They just need some energy and some juice from some younger guys. And I thought Fuller talked, I know we'll get to the defense in a second, but Fuller talked about that. And I thought and Papuchas too, about how the young guy are just, the whole practice seemed energized. And I think it's because, especially on offense, man, 27 guys played. It's going to be an interesting, fun week of practice when they all know they're going to play. So I just think it bodes well for maybe the future that you at least got one guy that you think you can lock down one of those tackle spots when all these 30-year-olds leave. Jalen Early appears to be one of those guys. Other than that, he said that he thought DJ was stressing too much.
That was pretty, I don't want to say revealing, but we haven't heard Norvell say anything that direct about him and his struggles, so.
But it's true, Norvell will talk about it more as like the whole team. The whole team is pressing. Right. There is no doubt that DJ is stressing about again, we've talked about it. It's just he doesn't let it rip. It's like he doesn't trust what he sees. He either doesn't see it quickly enough or he doesn't trust what he sees. And the RPOs are horrible, but everything, it's like if he doesn't step back, play it and throw, if he's scanning a little bit, you start you start getting knots in your stomach like, oh, what is this going to look like? He just doesn't seem to trust it. It doesn't seem like he has any confidence. But, yeah, that's he's at a new place. There's not a lot of pressure at Oregon State. And, weirdly, nobody expected a lot out of him at Oregon State. Right. Even though he had led Clemson to that, whatever it was, a 9 or 10 win season in 2022, and it played better, he had also been benched and lost his job. So it wasn't as if the Oregon State fans and coaching staff and players were expecting DJU to lead them to the playoffs. Well, he comes to Florida State, which is it's a big boy football school. He knows that very well. And all of a sudden, he's expected to be a guy that leads them to the playoffs. And clearly he isn't that. But there's also some pressure that comes with that, especially your third school in 3 years, that it doesn't appear he can get out of his own head, and he's not helped by a lack of, at least from what we can tell, big-time playmakers on that side of the ball. But, yeah, I thought Atkins, it was good. I just like him. I like when he talks about the defensive line. I just like hearing Atkins talk. It's a welcome. It's refreshing to have him back at these press conferences.
Yeah, man, I love the coordinators. I love speaking to those guys, for sure. One other thing before we go to defense, and I've brought this up before, and it got no traction. It's probably not going to get any traction now either. But if Early if he can build off what he did against Cal, has a good week of practice, and Jeremiah Byers is ready to go, and I meant to ask Alex, and I didn't, and I should have, maybe next week, just about the rotations they do. Is it worth it all, considering, and they've been letting everybody audition for any position on the offensive line the last week or so at practice, everybody. They've been throwing everybody at different spots, seemingly, but they haven't moved Darius back inside. But maybe Jalen Early and Byers as tackles, and you get Darius and Richie Leonard as guards, and then you have Maurice. I mean, does that make you more, the calculus of, I still don't know if Darius really is the best at left tackle. Obviously, they feel that way because that's where they've started him out at. But he's played a lot on the interior. Maybe the best 5 for you involves Darius and Jalen Early being on the field at the same time. And the only way to make that work is by putting Darius on the inside. Is that anything that's worth considering?
It's all worth considering.
Everything's up for
everything's up for evaluation.
There
Everything's up for analyzing. But sure, do something. And we should stress this, and I don't think we stressed it enough yesterday because I was just on a rant about the offense. But they did run the ball again. I get it. You know what? I'm not going to make the comparison about the chubby kid finishing a lap again.
Thanks, Corey.
You got it. But They ended up running for like 109 yards. If you take away the sacks, it's like 130. It was by far the best they had looked running the ball all year. It still wasn't anywhere close to even average, but it was still better than they've looked, and they did it against the best defense they've seen all year. So maybe they did simplify some things. Maybe they did make a concerted effort to. I mean, they certainly made a concerted effort to give it to their best running back. That's always a good idea, everyone. But yeah, so moving forward, I don't want to say that that was a positive. Like the running game did look more like we thought it would look, at least in the first half. They ran for 104 yards in the first half. If they'd have kept that up, Aslan, dare I say they would have run for over 200 yards in the game. But they didn't. They ran for 5 yards in the second half, so it didn't go great. But it's good to know that was at least in there, and maybe against SMU you push them around even more, and maybe you can somehow, even with a marble statue at quarterback, you can approach 200 yards rushing in a college football game. That would be wonderful to see. So I hope that maybe that's the one thing from the offense that I think that maybe could be built upon is how they looked for some of that game running the football, because they were physical. They were pushing guys back. There were creases and holes.
There was. Yeah.
So maybe that. So my point being, whatever I assume they might think they sounds like they think they'll get Jeremiah back.
Rob Scott might be available as well.
But I didn't mind the way that offensive line looked in the first half. I thought they did look as good as they looked all year. Maybe that's something to build on. We'll see.
So I did the math real quick here. So they were credited with 4 team rushes at negative 25. So we'll take those 4 away and we'll add the 25 yards back. So that would be 132 rushes on 37 yards. So they would have averaged 3.6 yards per carry.
Yeah, but did you take away the 4 carries too?
Yeah. So they had 41 carries for 107.
Okay, so that would be 37 for what?
132. So they'd average a whole yard more. So they'd be at 3.6 yards per rush as opposed to 2.6.
Yeah. And imagine if you had a quarterback that could run. Probably get up there. Again, I'm not killing you, DJ. I'm not trying to anyway. But this offense this year desperately needs some juice with back there at quarterback. And
is it more frustrating than seeing DeAndre in 2018? Because I felt like there was a lot of why isn't he running the ball? Because man, I went back and somebody tweeted like a 2016 sizzle reel of Florida State, and it was like, man, DeAndre Francois was really fast, man, and he ran the ball quite well. Like at least against Ole Miss, he had some big chunk runs. And then I remember in 18, coming off the knee injury, obviously, that he sustained against Alabama in the opener in 17, he just wasn't. Either he wasn't willing or able or some sort of combination of it. I remember that was such a huge point of contention. Kind of feels like Groundhog Day with the way we're looking at DJ and kind of grading his ability to effectively run read option RPO stuff.
Well, but he's, DeAndre's faster than DJ. But, yes, I think with DeAndre it was more about I think he saw the writing on the wall. It's like, why am I going to do this to myself? I'm not going to run 18 times a game. I'm not going to take some hits for this horrible team and this coaching staff that's not even giving me a chance, and this offensive line that doesn't deserve to have scholarships. Like, I think that was part of his thinking. Nobody's questioning DJU's toughness. Like, he wears hits every game, everyone. He's wearing a bunch of hits every game. He is a tough kid. But he's just not athletic enough. And Brock Glenn, so I don't think we're asking why isn't DJ running more. It's like, why don't they have a quarterback in there that would run more? And Brock Glenn is faster than Francois. Brock Glenn's a better athlete than Francois. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback, clearly. Brock Glenn can move now. Brock Glenn is I'm just telling you.
I don't know about peak Francois.
I remember talking to Jimbo about him off the record.
Now you're bringing it up, huh? Some journalist you are.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe there's this. What's the statute of limitations on 40 times for quarterbacks from 9 years ago? But he said that he thought Francois ran somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.7.
Okay.
4.65 or 4.7. Brock Glenn's faster than that. So I do think, but
Why
Francois
do you
was
say
plenty
this with
fast.
how can you say that with such confidence, Corey? Like, were you at Brockett Elite 11? Like, did you hold the stopwatch on him? I don't think he's
I
slow.
know what he's tapped out at miles per hours.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I do.
Same
and
thing that's got Daryl Jackson at 45 miles an hour.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I'm not at liberty to say what it was, but it is faster than that.
Okay.
Literally, and we've watched him too now, Aslan. Don't act like he's
no, I'm not.
He's consistently getting tracked down
when
he breaks those runs. But yeah, so yeah, it would be nice to have some athleticism back there, but that is literally a broken record. I think the goal now, everyone, is every Saturday. Well, let's see what happens Saturday night in Dallas. And hey, I know Georgia and Alabama are playing. Watch the Florida State Seminoles. Come on now. At least have a picture-in-picture or have two TVs going. But watch your Noles now. But if Brock Glenn doesn't play on Saturday, the offense looks abysmal again or just straight-up trash again. Sorry, I don't ever say the word trash. I don't know why I just said it then. That was I don't think I've ever described anything like that in my life as trash.
You're down bad, as the kids say right now, Corey.
I am, man.
This
I
offense
am. I'm on tilt. I'm a different person. But if it still looks the same and he doesn't play, then I want you guys to start from that moment on. We're all in this together, and we'll go find a quarterback for 2025 for Florida State. Might be Croman Hawk, sure. But just in case, let's go see what else the whole country has to offer, because the draft starts on December 1st, and they're all available. Everybody has the number one pick, and they're all available. So go see what you can do there.
Football's in full swing, and fall is right around the corner, if not already at our door. Have we hit fall equinox? I don't know. I'm not sure. But fuel up for both with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet all of your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. They are dietitian approved, and they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes, everybody. So no matter how busy you are, and we're all busy, I get it. Well, y'all are busy. Y'all have kids and wives and stuff. I don't have either. You're always going to have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals with Factor. So make today the day you start it off and you change it all up with a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Make every day delicious by treating yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and even blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/wakeup50. Use the code WAKEUP50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That code is WAKEUP50 at factormeals.com/wakeup50. Again, 50% off the first box, 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, today's like the inverse of the Monday show. We started with the positive on Monday and kind of, finished off with the...
By the way, I did look it up, Aslan. Jameer Watkins did average 15.6 points per game last year.
Okay.
So he outscored your football team.
Okay.
That's and it wasn't like he averaged 31 now.
Yeah.
He didn't lead the ACC in scoring. And he still scored. He scored more points in games than your football team did.
Not to say that I'm out on Mike Norvell, but what if we take our lumps next year and instead of like chasing money in the portal, we pull that money together and we send Link to go hang out with Nick Saban for like 6 months and have Nick Saban teach Link how to be a head football coach.
Oh, so Link is going to be the football. He's going to do both?
Yeah, something about talking to Link. What struck me about Link, we'll get to the defense, was I asked him.
You talked to Link on Monday. You should let everybody know.
Yeah,
baseball practice started.
Yeah, shout out to a national semifinalist, Florida State.
That's right.
Last season. It was really cool. I mean, they all talked about just being out in Omaha and seeing the level of physicality from other teams made them kind of realize they all need to do a little bit more as well. Jamie Arnold said he gained 5 pounds. Jackson West has muscles now. Shout out to Jackson West. He put in some work.
He's a hitter, man.
Yeah.
Like I said last year, it's like, man, if that kid could develop some pop, he's a high-level baseball player.
Yeah. So that was cool to see. But, he kept talking about Link, this is getting back to the head coach. Link kept talking about the quest for finding arms. Like, it's a perpetual thing for all coaches. It's always about finding arms. And then I'm like, Coach, you lost. So let me get this right. Like, you lost James Tibbs, Cam Smith, Jaime Ferrer, Daniel Cantu, and all you keep talking about is arms. Like, is it just Is it something about the level of, like, is it just easier to locate and identify guys that are able to help you out offensively, that it's not as big of a deal when it comes to arms? And he's like, well, he's like, we knew they were leaving. He's like, so, I'm like, so what? I'm like, excuse me. So I'm like, so you went into last year and you were recruiting last year players with the anticipation that you're going to lose those guys and then they would maybe be ready when those guys left. He's like, yes, correct. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What foresight from the head coach. But I digress. Let's talk about Adam Fuller. Man, yeah. Adam Fuller, man, he'll let you know he walks tall after a strong outing from his boys. And listen, they've had 2 pretty good games that they played okay against Memphis, I felt like. But I mean,
but don't act like he's like puffing his chest out and like peacocking that much. You know what I mean? Like he's still like he had a strong performance against Memphis, and he wasn't taking bows when he walked in there.
But he expects like a certain level of like recognize.
Yeah. Absolutely. He should.
Yeah. He's like, hey man, I held him out of the end zone. We don't win if that doesn't happen. So I do get it. Again, they're bringing in young guys. Or Quindarius had a really good game, which is really good bounce back because I don't want to get too dramatic. It's not like a quarterback coming in and they have an interception and things can spiral out of control. But Quindarius could have worn that fumble against Memphis and maybe kind of, turtle up and gone into a hole and not been very productive for maybe a few more weeks and then until he snapped out of it. But for him to go out and play the way he did, and it was one of those situations where when we spoke to Fuller last year after the LSU game and just the way that Renardo locked down Malik Neighbors, and he was like, he's like, listen, everybody talks about they want to get their receivers in one-on-one matchups. He's like, so do we. He's like, we like that too. He's like, I like my guys in a man-on-man matchup. And then I think he either talked about Quindarius or whoever was covering one of their top receivers, and he was like, Quindarius graded out really well in one-on-ones. I bet you if you go ask their coaches, their guy got a lot of minuses. I was like,
no, he was saying that about the guard that blocked Josh Farmer.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, he was talking about the offensive lineman that blocked Josh Farmer. Yeah, it's a great line though. Either way,
conflated that all terribly, but nonetheless. Edwin Joseph's a guy that he spoke highly about, and that's another again. I know you won a game, so we shouldn't quibble too much, but it was a 14-9 game. It was kind of gross and ugly. But to see guys being developed, true freshmen that came in here organically, grassroots, you've developed them, and they help spark you to a win. Those are sort of things that can let you peacock probably and walk tall if you chose to do that. But Adam doesn't go full tilt on it.
Yeah, and he said that that they played 26 or 27 guys, which is insane. He's like he said that's the most he's ever played in a one-score game. Which man, 20. I mean, that's more than your two deep. Yeah. Like there's 22 guys on the two deep, so it's more than that. It's remarkable. And then it's nice to see guys they've recruited, not transfer portals. Quindarius, Edwin Joseph, Blake Nicholson. They're starting Patrick Payton, obviously, Farmer. These guys are starting to showcase, okay, yeah, man, they can recruit a little bit too. These are all their own homegrown guys making plays. Azarie, Shaheem. So that's all good to see. And it is, I didn't think we talked about it on Monday's show, but like it was on those last drives, there were plays where Shaheem Brown wasn't in the game, and they were up by 5 points. Like, I would have never thought that would have been the case. Like, that they would trust other guys enough to go play in those moments. Yeah. But, he does. So that is a good sign now. It keeps those guys fresh. I think Peyton and Shaheem both played 50 snaps. Azarie was the only one that probably didn't come off the field or barely came off the field. I think
76 snaps for Cal offense. Azarie was out there for 73 of them. And they played 27 guys got a rep.
That's crazy. In a one-score game. So Azarie was the only one that basically stayed on the field the whole game. Everybody else was divvied up, man, and it did seem in that second half, in that fourth quarter, they were pretty darn fresh. I know they gave up a QB scramble. I know Shaheem gave up a remarkable catch to the kid. But otherwise, they were hard to run on. They rallied to the football, and I thought that was also interesting. The Fuller talked about there were a couple pictures in that game where he froze it, and it was like 11. It was the ball carrier and 11 Garnet jerseys, and he's like that happened more than once. There were 11 guys in the picture other than the ball carrier, and they were all our guys. Yep. That's what we talked about yesterday. Rallying to the football, running to the football, And, that's the effort they're trying to teach. That's the effort they're trying to build this program upon that it has been built upon. And, again, it just looked different. It really kind of looked different against Memphis, but it absolutely looked different against Cal. It wasn't just they played better. Yeah, the defensive line plays better, so everything looks better. It's the rallying to the football. When you're not even in on the play and you're running up there in case he breaks a tackle. And that goes back to the play where the Cal kid knocked himself out. I don't know if that guy's all okay, by the way. I hope he is. I haven't checked on that. And Devontae Brown comes streaming like a missile. It knocked the kid. That could have, if Devontae Brown's just sitting there thinking the play's over, that could have been a touchdown. Certainly a first down. Instead, he comes and delivers his best hit of the year and knocks the kid 5 yards out of bounds. Overall, really, really excited about the way the defense looked. But it's also about that was the worst offense they faced, and it's about to get a lot harder. SMU has an athletic quarterback, and then obviously you know what's waiting after SMU. So, but yeah, man, good to see that the defense looks like what we thought it was going to look like. Go watch Adam Fuller's videos. You always learn a lot. He's just so matter-of-fact in the way he talks, explaining decisions, explaining reasons why, explaining why a guy's been good. He did say that Marvin played well.
Saw that 6 months ago, though, he says.
Yeah, and he did. And he didn't see it the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but he saw it on Saturday night, and that was good to see. And then Papuchis even talked about how he saw a smile on Marvin's face for the first time in weeks. And these guys that come into these situations, much like DJU now, you come into a situation, you're a former 5-star, you're coming from Georgia, you know you're going to start. People are expecting a lot of you. Nobody's ever expected a lot at the college level of Marvin Jones Jr. because they didn't have to. He wasn't an afterthought at Georgia. They were excited to get him, but he didn't play much. Because they were a national championship caliber team with or without him. But he comes to Florida State, and he's a difference maker, and he's being counted on to produce. And when you don't for 2 or 3 games, that pressure can really start to weigh you down. And I thought it was Atkins that said it about how there are guys out there on this team that have never really been a part of wins and losses. Like they've been on the field, they were on the team, but wins and losses didn't come down to their production. But now it does. And they're starting to learn how to practice like that and live with that pressure and expectations. And, again, his offense scored 14 points, so he's not taking any bows. But still, it's good to see that that the defense, a lot of young guys are playing. They're starting to play better. And like I said, even the plays that Cal made, there was so much more communication, it seemed like. There was that one play, I think it was the Peyton sack, one of Peyton's sacks. He got ACC Player of the Week, right? Didn't he? I thought he did. I thought he got ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week. If not, let's just say that he got it anyway.
Yes, correct.
But there was one of his sacks, I think, or at least it was a tackle near the line of scrimmage, where it was so noticeable. Cal sends a guy in motion. Omar Graham's in the game. He starts pointing up. 2 or 3 other guys start pointing up. They shift out of the look they're in to something else. And then Cal gets nothing on the play.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember that.
You remember that play in the first half? Yeah. Everybody saw it. Yeah. The whole defense knew exactly what that's, again, it's almost like the first 2 games were the preseason or something for this defense. And again, the defense wasn't the reason they lost the first 2 games, but they certainly weren't the reasons they won because they didn't. They didn't play great, but they weren't horrible. But it's almost now like they found their footing, which they need it because, like I said, they're going to play a good offense.
Yeah, we can look at it that way, right? If they would have played this way the first 2 weeks of the season, they probably would have won at least one of those games. But it's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. Also, shout out to, I guess, John Papuchis and Adam for teeing him up and kind of giving him some flowers because it was crazy. I was looking at the drive charts for Cal. Because they had, as I pointed out in the question I asked them, they had a 15-play drive to start the second half, Cal, missed the field goal. Then they had a 10-play drive, their second to last, their penultimate possession, 10 plays, 55 yards, no points. And then their last drive was 13 plays. That's crazy. They had 13 plays with 29 yards.
Yeah, because they kept converting, they converted a crazy 4th down. They kept going backwards. They converted didn't he run for a first down at 13 or something? Yeah.
But all that said, there was no points allowed on those, and if they had a good field goal kicker, that probably changed it. But I kind of asked him, I'm like, he took it as me I think he took it as me, criticizing the defense, But I wasn't. Like, it's impressive to me. Like, you let them go on that long of a drive and they still didn't score points because just like if you play it out long enough with how talented this defense is, like, do you just like your chances, or is it just the geography of football where the ball gets closer to the end zone, there's not as much going on there, so it's more difficult, and that's why you guys rise up? And he was just, he's like, well, I don't know about all that, but he's like, I do know that he's like, ask Papuchis. He's like, he's got stats for you, and I don't think he gave us the actual raw numbers, but just we kind of tongue-in-cheek talk about how much they work on special teams. It's cool when you're winning 13 games in a row, but when you're not winning games and you keep practicing special teams and you don't look all that great on special teams, it's a little bit annoying. But apparently, maybe that kicker is not as bad as his numbers flesh out, because apparently he was saying that over the last few years, Florida State's opponent's field goal conversion percentage has been quite low, and they credit that to just how much they drill it, because they do take it so seriously, and they do play with such maximum effort on field goal block that gets in the head of these kickers, and that's why they're maybe missing a lot of these kicks. So shout out to the defense for playing hard that way.
Now go catch punts. That's the next step.
It was one he didn't catch.
Yeah, and then go make something happen in the return game. Go block a kick. That's all. That can all be part of it. But yeah, overall, it was good to have everybody back at the coordinator press conferences. And yeah, if they keep forcing missed field goals, Georgia Tech missed one too, right? I mean, I know they hit the game winner,
yeah.
but they missed one before that. So you've certainly won the field goal kicking battle, and the punting battle all 4 weeks. So
yeah, listen, man, Cal would have won if the kickers were traded. Cal probably wins that game, but Ryan Fitzgerald's from Coolidge, Georgia, baby.
Yep, they don't have that, and they don't have that in the Cal Bears, do they?
Nope.
They don't have anything like that for the Cal Bears.
We'll dive into it on tomorrow's show. We'll have Bill Embody to talk about. That's his name, Bill Embody. Embedy? I need to get the pronunciation of his name first. But he's going to be on the show talking about the ponies. But Adam Fuller did talk about, just kind of generally speaking, it's not as easy as this, but basically, like, they're just going to want to try to run the ball, SMU. They're going to try to pound it and then open up some deep shots downfield until you prove otherwise. Do we like that kind of matchup? At least, for Florida State's defense. There's no matchup that I think that we like for Florida State's offense right now.
No, unless it was a 11-0.
Yeah.
Like, I think they could score 35 points against air. They'd have to settle maybe 30, maybe 31. They might have to settle for a field goal. But yeah, I think they could score 35 against air. No, there's no good matchup. Look, man, and I said it before the season, like, is set up perfectly for an offense that had all this inexperience. They're not young, but they hadn't played together before. Literally, like, the 5 worst defenses you thought you were going to face. And I didn't realize Cal was this good on defense, but 4 of the 5 worst defenses you're going to face this season were all right there. Now North Carolina's waiting in the wings, obviously, and so again, you still got Miami, you still got Clemson. Duke is as good a defense as you've seen so far this season. So, no, I don't know. When you can only score 1 touchdown on Memphis, and then the next week that team gives up 56 points. I know one of them was a pick 6 at the end. No, there's no good matchups for the Florida State.
But I'm saying defensively, when you hear about, like, SMU, you're figuring SMU's goal is going to be to establish a run game so that Florida State has to invest more to stop it, and they're going to start taking some shots downfield. Like, do you find that favorable for Florida State coming off the way they played against Cal? Like, you like Florida State's maybe rushing defenses, maybe figured some things out, or do you have some concerns because?
Oh, no, the only thing I'm concerned about with Florida State's rush defense is, again, you're going back to a guy that can run, a quarterback that can keep it. I don't know that he's as dynamic as Castellanos or Haynes King, and then also Papuchis made up a perfectly good point. He's like, when we left those Georgia Tech and Boston College games, it wasn't as if everybody thought the QB run was what got us. It was just the running game in general we didn't do well against. Yeah. I do think they found something the last 2 weeks. I do think that running game is better. I think Farmer and Jackson and Lyons and the guys in the middle have really kind of taken ownership and been good. The linebackers are getting better. Still not great, but getting better. And, the one point I wanted to make about all the subbing was he didn't put his name in the stats a lot. And Daryl Jackson, I don't know what his snap count was. I think it was like 41 or 42. But he was fresh enough that 43. At the end of the game, on the play that mattered, I know Edwin Joseph gets this. Maybe it's the Marvin Jones play, actually, the play before where Marvin Jones comes for the strip sack. Watch what Daryl Jackson does to that guy. He pushes him 5 yards back. On the second to last play of the game, he's fresh enough to push a 320-pound guy 5 yards back into the quarterback and plant him. Now, next time, recover the fumble, big dog. But still, that's why you want to rotate. And that's why getting better play from these other guys. That's why, like, Byron Turner had a pretty nice game. That's great for Peyton and Jones. Lolahea is out there, which gives them rest. So it all works together in that defensive front. You just hope they can build on it. Be dominant. If the defensive front is dominant on Saturday night, they got themselves a chance. It ain't going to be pretty, because how could it be? But if you can slow down that SMU rushing attack and get them into passing downs, which is what they kept saying on Monday when we talked to Fuller and Papuchas, you've got to earn the right to get to rush the passer. Well, that means you got to get them in passing downs. You got to get them in third and passing, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 12. Earn the right to go pin your ears back. And they didn't do that very well at all against Georgia. At all. They didn't do it very well. They didn't do it at all against Georgia Tech and Boston College. By the way, I looked it up last year, Aslan. Florida State opponents were 16 of 22 on field goals.
Well, that's good, right?
I think so. I mean, it's not for college football. It's not great, but I think this year they've had 4 missed kicks, maybe, against them.
Georgia Tech missed one, Memphis missed one, and Cal guy missed 2.
Yeah, so that's 10 misses in the last 15 games. That's probably more than average.
Yeah, the Memphis one I think that was a kind of a wing and a prayer for that guy. That was outside of his range. But
don't care.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Don't care. He missed it, didn't he?
No updates on the Cal lineman who went down that I've seen out there on social, but do hope he's doing all right. And, yeah, somebody complained about this the other week, too. It's the baseball players Castellanos, the Tom Brenneman apology.
Oh, yeah, there's a deep drive to left. Is this Castellanos?
I guess so, yeah. Someone said it was disrespectful that we keep mispronouncing his name, as though this is a Boston College podcast and he's our quarterback.
Right. The 2 L's next to each other I always thought was the Y sound.
Hey, man, I know.
What was Miss Barnett teaching me in high school?
Well, Waycross, Georgia, they do things a little bit different.
That's true. Yeah, good point. Good point. So, okay, sorry, Castellanos, Thomas Castellanos. Hey, here's a deal, Thomas. Be in Tallahassee next year, and I promise I will pronounce your name correctly. Get here by Christmas. Stay in Tallahassee, and I'll pronounce your name correctly.
Yeah. All righty. So, Seminole headlines. Oh, I can't wait. I need to go back. I didn't listen to Jeff's open monologue. He calls them open. He doesn't call them monologues. He calls them opens on Monday. I need to go back and listen to that. And maybe that'll energize me for the show that we'll have for you folks tomorrow. But we'll have a SMU insider, Bill Embody, E-M-B-O-D-Y. How would you pronounce E-M-Body?
I think you got it right.
Embody?
Yeah, Embody. Embody. Embody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. He's a good dude. He knows his stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to talk SMU ball. We'll have that as part of this show. Headlines again, 1 to 3. We'll be at practice, everybody. Get ready to watch that practice footage.
Amen, brother.
And interviews afterwards. We'll have that all over at warchant.com. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.